A Milwaukee Brewers trade is imminent, and we have multiple new reports and new details going over a Eugenio Suarez deal that is guaranteed to come before next Thursday's deadline, as well as many other updates surrounding this Milwaukee Brewers team, and also what other positions need to be upgraded before we get to Thursday's deadline. We're going to be breaking it all down here in this video. Before we do jump into it, though, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We're having all your Milwaukee Brewers news come out here until the deadline and well after, and we're going to be breaking it down here for you guys. And we know we got a lot of stuff coming, so you will not want to miss it. But let's jump straight in to this video. Going over first, once again, Eugenio Suarez. And we now know a few teams have thinned out, and we now know a very interesting asking price for Eugenio Suarez, which the Brewers are definitely going to be keeping tabs on. Now, this, of course, came out yesterday when it goes over where the New York Yankees decided to go rather than going to get Eugenio Suarez, just because the Yankees and Mariners are somewhat less likely than they were a few days ago to nab Suarez. Doesn't mean the coast is clear. The Cubs themselves could be in on a two-time All-Star, as could the Cincinnati Reds and Detroit Tigers, and also the Houston Astros. So some of the top teams in the MLB are still looking to add Eugenio Suarez to get that power into their lineup. And we know the Brewers are trying to go in that direction, try to add a bit of power, while also making sure that this team stays as good as it is. Obviously, this team is built right now to be able to go and win some games. Now, when it comes to postseason, when it comes down to a bottom 9 situation, no man on, 2 man out, a guy like Eugenio Suarez is probably who you want on or at bat, rather than many other players the Brewers currently have. But looking at the direction they're going, it is certainly a positive one with what we've been seeing over the past week. And I want to pull up this from Matt Johnson of Sportsnut. The New York Yankees took themselves out of the mix for Eugenio Suarez with Ryan McMahon trade, and the Mariners already made a deal with the Diamondbacks for first baseman Josh Naylor. There are still a few viable suitors for Eugenio Suarez, but those clubs also need to balance their needs for starting pitching. And now this is where it comes into taking a look at the Milwaukee Brewers. We have that starting pitching. We have many assets to be able to move in, move out, and also many teams where we know are looking for a starting pitcher. And we've been talking about Logan Henderson as an option. There's been reports of a 1-for-1. There's been reports of him being in a piece of a 3-player deal going to the Diamondbacks, but we have the structure to be able to do it. Now, as you saw there as well, there's some other players that could be moved elsewhere from across the MLB. There's a few teams in on Eugenio Suarez. And the Brewers also have some very interesting needs when it does come down to who they could be looking to add as well outside of Eugenio Suarez. And I want to pull this up as for the asking price. And this is kind of where we can judge whether or not the Brewers will be full in or full out on Eugenio Suarez, with, of course, a little bit of exception. And trade talks between the Yankees and Diamondbacks over Eugenio Suarez stalled after Arizona asked for an MLB player, an upper-level prospect either in AA or AAA, and likely to be next year or the year after an MLB player, and at least one lower-level prospect per industry sources. This comes from Francie Romero. The Yankees still holding tight to top farm talent. So we know the Yankees are not really looking to get rid of that just in case the situation they're in. Not probably the best idea for them, but where the Yankees kind of don't have everything is the top-level talent that they are willing to get out of the way now. The Yankees are going to be a deep playoff team. They have been for the past few years, and looking at the team now, if Aaron Judge is hurt, they need everything they have, so they cannot really afford to go out and lose some pitching, lose anything there, while the Brewers have so many assets that you can make that happen. So, looking at this asking price, in my opinion at least, and I want to know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, it does seem like to me the Brewers would be, not necessarily all in, but are certainly still on board with Eugenio Suarez compared to what, the industry sources are saying is going to be the return that the Diamondbacks are requesting. And we knew there's going to be a pitcher involved. We knew that much at least, and the Brewers have that. So I want to know what you guys think there in the comments below about that, and if the Diamondbacks really could, go out of their way to make sure that the Brewers, not just, in a sense, get Eugenio Suarez, but they're making sure that the Brewers can give them the best return possible rather than any other team, because I think from here we have a lot of questions that are going to be raised. And when it comes down to taking a look at the lineup right now, we know that power is needed. That's one thing that I think a lot of us have been talking about, and that's the reason that Eugenio Suarez is the top suitor right now for this Milwaukee Brewers team. And there's been some more recent articles that we're kind of going to jump into now, going over what else the Brewers could add. And this is from MLBTradeRumors.com. And when they don't need to add an everyday player, the Brewers could stand to upgrade the bench. Utility infields, Andrew Monasterio and Anthony Siegler aren't providing anything offensively. Backup catching Eris Haas rarely plays, but he's hitting a 224, 278, and 358. and has never been a well-regarded defender. Now, when you're looking at kind of these traits that these players provide, obviously it does sound like this team, would not be where they are with these players. If they would be better without them, but essentially, they're just there to be able to fill in some depth. But when depth comes down to it, we know that's going to be a big part of the playoffs. And continuing on with that, another article has also released some options that, the Brewers really need to take a look at. Not necessarily provide and keep them as a main source above a Eugenio Suarez, but think of these guys as, a 2A, 2B, 2C rather than, the one in a Eugenio Suarez. Now, this is what we're currently looking at. And for Milwaukee, from Robert Murray, of course, from Fanside, Milwaukee could look to upgrade at that spot. William Contreras, shoulder is a heavy workload, and he's starting catcher in the MLB. Miami's Nick Fortes, Tampa Bay's Danny Jansen, and Cleveland's Austin Hedges are among the catchers who could be available. So we're not just getting, hey, we should go and upgrade these guys. We should go and look at upgrade them. There's been names being thrown out as to options for this Brewers team to add to make sure that, we're getting the depth that we need headed towards playoff time. And I think these are some very underrated, kind of sneaky options, I guess, that we can consider as some targets. And I wouldn't necessarily say now on the next day, but on deadline day on Thursday, I think that is certainly the players to look at when the Brewers are really looking to kind of add, build up, and kind of provide the depth to this team that they really need heading into the postseason, because I think it's all but guaranteed there at this point. I think we're pretty safe to say that this Brewers team is going to be there, going to be a heavy challenge for many teams, but we know in the postseason, it doesn't mean if you're the best team in the MLB, doesn't mean you're going to be the best team in the postseason. I think the Brewers need to just tweak that a little bit of the lineup to make that happen. So catching, is definitely going to be an option. When we look at Joey Ortiz, he's been a player that has not been great on shortstop and has been a candidate to be upgraded in this case. But when you're looking at what he's been able to provide over the past few seasons, he hasn't shown just yet that he can actually provide at that level and kind of prove to a lot of people that he is an everyday shortstop, especially when you're on a postseason team. So looking at that, I think it's a bit of a stretch to be able to go out and say, hey, let's take a look at him. Let's go and trust him there when you have options to be upgraded at shortstop for not just the Brewers, but across the MLB. There's a lot of targets out there. And another option that has been out there kind of in the trade market and the trade idea has been Rhys Hoskins. With an injury and, with everything going on throughout his career thus far and up to this point in the season, when you're taking a look at his stats, 82 games, of course, the injury going on, and, 242 is better than last year, but when you're going back to his years with Philly, the power that was there, the power that he provided, still on pace for, a decent amount, but you want to see more. You want to see him back up to those 30, top 20s, 30 kind of area to get that power back. And, if you have a Rhys Hoskins doing that, the question about there is, would you need a Eugenio Suarez? And the fact that we're not seeing that power from Rhys Hoskins here really, to me at least, tells that we can go elsewhere and look for that power bat. And I think Eugenio Suarez, on top of being able to move some other candidates, is a great option. Now, before we do finish the video off, I have one update regarding Jackson Chourio in last night's game. Going over a pretty, crazy stat to take a look at. He's in some pretty good group of names here with, of course, Paul Molitor and Ryan Braun in most recent memory here. Going over the top 20-plus game hit streaks in franchise history. Jackson Chourio has now joined that list, and as far as we know, can join this group and climbing up. And over the next few games, he may find himself just behind Paul Molitor. Even though he may need to get a few more games there, he can certainly get that. So it's just kind of an awesome stat to take a look at where we're going at this point, where the Brewers are in this season. So let me know what you think about not just this, but the entire trade market as we currently stand with this Brewers team. Do you think we're going to ship anybody out rather than bring some more people in? Of course, Eugenio Suarez still on the table. New details revealed, and I think it's going to be a very interesting next few days as the Brewers get closer and closer to the trade deadline. They're getting closer and closer to getting back to a World Series. We're going to be joining all this news here over the next few days, and you're going to want to join here as well. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing up, though. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.